All statements and opinions expressed by guests of the Adult in the Room podcast are strictly their own and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or opinions of the host, producers, or advertisers. All interviews are presented in their most complete possible form in the interests of free speech. No statements should be interpreted as financial, legal, or medical advice. Listener and viewer discretion are strongly advised.
It's the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. That's me. Edward Bartlett is a gentleman who's made men and boys his mission in life. And he is with an organization called the International Council for Men and Boys. And here we are at a crossroads of our country. And I ask you the question, what can we do to save our kids, our boys?
Victoria, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show, and thank you for raising this issue. So I'm going to say that you use the word crossroads. I would say it's more strongly. I would say we're in the middle of a struggle, call it a fight for the soul of America. The soul of America is at stake here because we have this ongoing, use the word disputes, and sometimes enmity between male and female, between boys and girls, between men and women. And we have to resolve that issue. If we don't resolve it, our families will disappear. If our families disappear, the soul of America will disappear. So let's talk about, how did this come to pass? I've been around enough years, you can probably tell just by looking at the number of wrinkles on my face that
right there with you.
that I have a little perspective on that. Mm-hmm. The problem, I'm going to go all the way back when the feminists invented the word patriarchy. Patriarchy, which of course is a very strong negative word, saying that just by virtue of being male, that makes me an oppressor.
Right? I see. So it's a combo of hierarchy and the
right.
Well, I don't know now. I don't know what else to say.
So I'm not going to go back 10,000 years because that would be fruitless.
Sure.
So let's go all the way back to the Titanic, right? You remember the story of the Titanic? Women and children first, and men who didn't go along with that were either simply forced into the ocean or worse. So I would argue that the power of chivalry has been far more powerful than the existence of patriarchy. And I would even say farther, since that era of 100 years ago or so, there has been no patriarchy at all in our society. Our society is very driven by chivalry, by how do we help women, how do we, on and on and on. So I'm just trying to set the stage. We have a crisis. We have to address this crisis.
We do. There was a recent, I think it was a Gallup poll that said 40% of women, which are leftist women, want to leave the country, which I say, have fun.
I saw that.
But, here, I do want to know, because when you see things, for example, at the Portland ICE headquarters, where there are a bunch of picketers and Antifas out there and people are in costumes and all sorts of chicanery, there are a lot during the daytime. This is before Black Bloc gets there. A lot of older women, and these are the women who would want to leave the country, because they don't like Donald Trump, because they can't. Something wrong with them. But here's my question: are those the people leading the revolution? That the older women? Is that what's going on here? And Victor Davis Hanson says that the people who are watching this program right now, you and all you folks, all y'all over there, in the comment section, we're the counter-revolution. You believe that?
Well, the people leading the revolution, and that's a great way to frame it.
Yeah.
Yes, there is people are pushing for revolution in our country, and
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I don't think we should be in denial anymore. We
No,
truly are at a crisis
they want to burn
situation,
it all down.
and in my opinion, it's the feminists, especially the feminists who are who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s. Either they're never married or they're no longer married. They have no children. We know that 56% of all young feminists are clinically depressed or have a mental health problem. So mental health issues, factor into the issue very strongly. But yes, there are groups of people who do not have the interests of America at heart. They are trying to divide and conquer, and this goes all the way back to Karl Marx and
Yeah.
his views of how he shaped the feminist mindset.
For power. That's the only outcome for them. They just want power. Because they think they can do better. Okay, more power to you, ladies, if you can do better. But
Right.
I wonder, I do wonder. It seems to me that Charlie Kirk was onto something. And the other day, I saw a great kid. I say kid because everybody younger than me is a kid now. And we had him on the program last week, and he had a conversation. He's a former Antifa guy. He was conversing with a guy who's a former Black Bloc Portland Antifa guy. And these guys were revolutionaries, okay? And they wanted to fight the man, and they wanted to, put a monkey wrench in the machine. And both of them, now out and away from what they termed the cult, agreed that Charlie Kirk was the one guy who was able to communicate and say to men, young men, that which Enrique Tarrio can't necessarily, he can say it to him, but not everybody's going to buy it, because Charlie Kirk didn't end a conversation with a punch if somebody else punched him. Two different ways of saying the same thing, and both are acceptable, I think.
He was always a marvel to watch in action, and I really did admire his style. But I want to share with you another piece of very important data that goes back to my claim that patriarchy no longer exists in the United States. The fact is that men are lagging behind women on 12 different areas, from lifespan and suicide, enrollments in college, treatment by the legal system, homelessness, being victims of domestic violence. I don't want to fill up the whole show going up through the 12 points.
No, that's good. No, you know what? That's important. I want to hear that. People need to hear that. No, because that's ammunition for them to buttress their arguments. So I'm writing it down. I've seen your video on it at your website. But I think for our purposes, it would be excellent to go through it. Go ahead.
Well, okay. So I've already talked about, and this stuff is true globally. It's not just the U.S., but I'm just going to focus on the U.S. Men are living 5 years shorter than women, and that's been true for many years. Men's suicide rate is 4 times greater than women, and even teenage boys, you're seeing much higher suicide rates in teenage boys. Let's go to college enrollments. I believe it's about 60% female enrollments in colleges, 40% male. That's very troubling. There's what's called the boy crisis. This is a broad term, refers to boys that are becoming disconnected, are spending more time on their cell phones or their video games than they are interacting with their family or
with real people. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, right. I mentioned the issue of domestic violence. This is
that was a shocker.
Most people, CDC, Centers for Disease Control, reports that there are actually more male victims of domestic violence than female victims of domestic violence each year.
Wow.
And so again, we're breaking these stereotypes. Men are more likely to be victims of a false allegation. If you look at homelessness, it's 72% male, and anyway. The last point I'll make is, if you look at media portrayals of men, there was a big and this was on our website. There was a a study done that found that the majority of media portrayals are negative. Okay, it's no longer father knows best or anything that's positive. It's you know dads who are stupid, who are bumblers, who
Right.
can't walk in a straight line without falling down.
Hmm.
I mean, the negative stereotypes are so pervasive. So it it truly is stunning. So here's my question to those who believe there's a patriarchy. If there is truly is a patriarchy, well, those patriarchs are doing one heck of a terrible job and helping all of those men who are dying 5 years earlier because nothing is being done to help those guys to avoid that premature death. So
Well, and then Obamacare made sure that other people that our life expansion or our lifespan, she tried to say, was reduced even further for both men and women. So that didn't
right.
help. It's what
And
happens with rationed health care, everybody. This is what it looks like.
yeah, yeah,
Did you
for
hear
sure.
Michelle Obama recently talked about the fact that we just aren't ready for a woman president? And, she's not even going to bother, please don't even discuss this with me because it's the dumbest thing ever that you should even countenance the idea of a woman president because, doggone it, nobody's ready for it. And I thought, I'm pretty sure if we had a Maggie Thatcher type or somebody like the Japanese prime minister, did you see that woman walking next to Trump when he visited Japan? She was a badass. She was like
Right,
so self-composed. She
right,
was, I looked at my husband and I go, that chick right there, look at her swagger. And he goes,
right.
yeah. He was going, so
Victoria,
you can
did you
get
ever
somebody
hear about
good.
there was an island they established about 10 years ago called She Island
Hmm.
off the coast of Finland. Did you ever hear about that?
Nope.
She Island.
I don't think
She
so.
Island. It was bought by a female entrepreneur, and she would only women were allowed to visit this island. Right?
What?
It was yeah. Well, men were simply banned from. It was called She Island, and you can look it up on the internet. Um, but irony of ironies, She Island went out of business a few years later because not there weren't a whole lot of women that just wanted to go off by themselves and
Okay. Be with
navel
women?
gaze and just be separate. I mean, the bottom
Yeah.
line is the attraction between male and female is powerful, but it has been distorted and grievously harmed by this overlay of feminist ideology. Talking about misogyny. I mean, how many times a day do you hear the word misogyny? Can I
A
just ask?
lot. A
Yeah,
lot.
me too. Every time I go on social media, I see it, but there's never any evidence. There's never any proof. Now here's the proof. Go online and just go to any AI program and ask, how many times have people used the word "kill all men" on Twitter?
Oh,
And then ask how many times have people used the word "kill all women"?
ooh.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I've done that. I've actually gone to Grok and I've asked that question, and it's not like a 2-to-1 disparity. It's like almost nobody ever uses the phrase "kill all women,"
Absolutely
but
not.
"kill all men" is still a pretty popular phrase.
Yeah.
Now, if that's not proof that that misandry is far more widespread than misogyny, I don't
Oh,
know what is.
absolutely. No, see, you said I say misandry, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Misandry, same thing, same spelling. That's the hatred of men, and most people don't even know that word. I mean, not that we should know it, but neither
Right.
should
And
we be
I
obsessed
couldn't
with.
even pronounce it properly, right?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. But okay, all right. So how can people get in touch with you and find out how they can? Well, let me before I let you go, I want to know like 3 things people should know about making men more. What's the way to put it? I'm not going to say make men feel better, but just giving them their due.
I
How can
think
we
the word
just?
acceptance, I think that's probably the key because men have been made to feel not accepted, have been made to feel defective, oppressors, etc.
Yeah.
So,
Bumblers.
but I do want to, I've talked sort of about the crisis, but I haven't said anything about the most recent developments that give me a great deal of hope.
Okay.
All right. So for men and guys, the campaign and the election of Donald Trump, I think, will be seen as a turning point in the history of our nation, because he was the first presidential candidate who truly reached out to the male electorate and made them feel wanted and appreciated. It wasn't just because he was talking about banning DEI.
No.
His whole demeanor, everything about him was positive. He projected a image of positive masculinity.
Hold that thought. Here it is.
4 years ago, we took a wrong turn and lost our purpose. We lost the strength that makes Americans who we are. If we dared to speak the truth, it was called hate speech, and our values were labeled shameful. That's when everything we care about fell apart. We surrendered our borders, our paychecks, and our courage. Our patriotism was called toxic. Men could beat up women and win medals, but there was no prize for the guy who got up every day to do his job. Now we're being asked to settle for the way things are. And we're wondering if America can make a comeback. We can, because we've done it before. When we get knocked down, we don't stay down, we get up again. We fight. We fight. We fight.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
I can't watch that without getting a little teary-eyed.
I was going to. Me too. Tears were coming to my eyes. So that's one piece of this notion that things are on the mend right now, but we still have a long way to go. So there is a great deal of hope for men and boys. Here's the other piece of this puzzle that also is really fascinating. And I'm holding up an article written by Helen Andrews. It came out in October. It's titled "The Great Feminization." Right?
And where was this?
It was in a obscure journal or that I had never heard of before. But this is changing the whole dialogue on gender, because and here's a female criticizing the female dominance in law, in medical schools, and in other areas, and it's completely changed the narrative.
It has, and if you don't know that, Steve Hayes was talking about it on his podcast. Is that 3 Whiskey Happy Hour with John Yoo and Lucretia, and it was awesome. It was he was talking about that very thing, and I think he's going to write a little bit more about it, and it is essential reading. Absolutely, it struck you too, right? It
did. I mean, I've seen this in my own life, and without telling you the whole story, I've seen how this toxic feminization, truly how it works, how it creates a sense of hysteria, a sense of group victimization, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so things are beginning to improve, be on the mend. Boys and men have a positive role model in the presidency of the United States. And feminists now are being told that there's some problems in that they need to look at the great feminization. In the pedagogy, there's a problem in the pedagogy, everybody. Oh, you're awesome, Edward Bartlett. How can people get in touch with you and your organization? Okay, so here's our website, International Council for Men and Boys, website www.menandboys.net. menandboys.net. Men and Boys. That talks all about these 12 areas. And we have lots and lots of information there to basically back up everything that I've said during this interview. You're awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on. And thank you for the work. Great to chat with you. Yeah, great to chat with you. I like to keep it kind of lively, giving us all sorts of things to look at and ooh at. Right. And so I appreciate you playing podcast with me today. I appreciate it. All good. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and The Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. Would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.